Germany is very big on recycling. So separating your waste and disposing them properly is very important. And that's why in this video, I'll be telling you all about the different types of waste, how to separate and dispose them properly. My name is Ogena, and I make videos to help you navigate and settle into life in Germany. First things first, in this video, I'm only talking about household waste. That means the waste that you generate from your house. Now, this might sound redundant to say, but in this YouTube streets, you just have to say it. So here, I'm just talking about household waste only. So basically, we can categorize these household waste into two broad groups. That's recyclable waste and non-recyclable waste. Now, with recyclable waste, we're talking about things like metal and plastic. So with metal and plastic, here is aluminum containers, cans, things like PET bottles, plastic bottles, containers, things like that. These are recyclable. Then paper. Most paper products, so be it newspaper, all newspapers, cardboards, books, paper in general, these are recyclable. Next thing, glass. So glass jars, glass bottles, everything glass is typically recyclable. Then textiles. So some textiles can be recycled depending on the material, and the condition of the textile. But generally, some textile can be recyclable. Then other things that can be recycled are like electronics, batteries, accumulators. They can be recycled through the e-waste system or special recycling centers. The recycling for these are special, of course, because of their hazardous components. Next, furniture. Certain furniture can be recycled or in some cases upcycled, so some wooden parts could be used for something else, or there's some metal parts of the furniture. So it depends on the furniture, really. So we would say furniture can be recycled. Now, the fact that all of these are recyclable doesn't mean that you have to lump them all together. No. Separation is very important when it comes to recycling. So it is important that you know the right bin to put your different types of waste in, and we'll get into that pretty soon. Lumping your waste together makes the recycling process either really difficult or impossible. Now let's go to non-recyclable waste. These would include some organic waste. Organic waste are wastes that you most often than not generate from your kitchen or from things that decay. So your kitchen waste, like vegetables, peels from fruit, things like that. Just things that can decay. Even plants. That maybe you clear your garden, the plants, tree branches, tree leaves, tree branches. These things that can, that can decay. These are organic waste, and they're not recyclable. But of course, they could be used to make other things like compost, biogas, which could then be used for something else. In some sense, that is some sort of recycling, but in this case, we classify them as non-recyclable waste. Next on this non-recyclable list are hazardous waste. So waste like paint, cleaning chemicals, things that are hazardous, chemical related. Even cooking oil, as harmless as it may seem or sound, if they're not disposed properly, they could become hazardous to the environment. So all of these fall under non-recyclable waste. Now let's talk about separation and disposal. All over Germany, you find these color-coded bins where you can dispose your waste based on, what is labeled. Generally, the colors are similar across the country, but sometimes it could vary slightly. For example, when we're living in Koblenz, paper waste went into the blue bins, but when we moved to Wuppertal, paper waste went into the yellow bins. So while there might be some variations here and there, the important thing is to read the label. Usually the bins are going to be labeled to say, okay, for example, bio waste or old paper, things like that. It will be labeled. Sometimes they will even put pictures of what you can put into the bin on the bin. First, we'll start with metal and plastic waste. So plastic items as well as metal cans, you know, aluminum foil, bags for your fruits, you know, tin cans, things like that. All of these are going to be put in the yellow bin or the yellow bags. So depending on what is acceptable in your city. Now, speaking of metal and aluminum things and plastic bottles and things like that, you should know that some bottles carry what is called the fan. You will find this sign usually on the bottle, be it a PET bottle, be it a water bottle, like say a plastic water bottle, you know, and things like that. What that means is when you were buying that, there was a deposit on that item, and that usually is around 25 cents. Now, when you take those bottles, those cans, those aluminum things, those containers carrying this sign, you can take it back to any store that sells something similar. So it means that you don't go to Reve, for example, and buy some of these drinks and then take the bottles to Saturn, for example, to return them. It makes no sense because they don't sell the same thing. So if you go to Reve to buy something, you can as well, you can have these bottles and you can return them in Netto or wherever. The important thing is that this store should sell something similar, and they should have the recycle machine there where you can take your bottles to drop. So you take these bottles, you put it into the machines, you get a paper receipt that then allows you to buy something from the store. Now, organic waste. These include, you know, your kitchen waste, peels, vegetable, plants that you know, cut from outside of your house or inside, whichever place the plants may be. Now, these decayable, or these waste that decay, they go into the green bio waste bin. Now, in some cities, these bins are brown. So like I said, check the label and be sure of what is written on it. So now these bio waste, or in other words, organic waste, are going to be collected, you know, from all these bins. They're going to be fermented and then converted into like compost or biogas, which of course will then be used in our household for plants or for different use that they may be needed for. So you see, this is really cool. We're able to give a second chance for life, even though they're dead now, but you know, they're able to give life to something else. Next, paper. So these include old newspapers, you know, magazines, books, cardboards, everything paper. These go into the blue bin. Now, if you haven't given this video a thumbs up, this would be a good time to do so. And if you like content like this, you might consider subscribing. Thank you. Now let's talk about disposing glass. So glass jars, glass bottles, you know, all of these glass things that are non-deposit. So non-deposit means they don't have fan on them. Of course, these are disposed in what is called bottle banks, or they're like containers. Anyway, you take them there. They're all over your city, all over your neighborhood. If you just take a walk around, you would find big containers. Usually they look slightly different from the regular, not slightly different, although they are very different from the bins that you have all over the place. These are huge containers that you can then put your glass. Now, you don't put all your glass together. These are going to be labeled on the banks. You would have vice glass as white glass, you have green glass as green glass, and you have brown glass as the brown glass. There's a joke that's always going all around Germany that you see some people who are almost monitoring you, and you go to put your bottles and they're like, oh, you put the green glass and the brown glass and things like that. I don't know how to tell the joke again, but usually this happens a lot, truly, because sometimes some glass, they look like they're green or like they're brown. You can't really tell. At this point, you just have to use discretion. You look at it, is it more green than brown, or is it more brown than green? You know, if it's more green than brown, just put it in the green one. If it's more brown than green, of course, just put it in the brown one. So you just use your discretion to know that this looks more brownish or this looks more greenish. The important thing, don't mix the glass together. Next, don't also put the cover of the glass bottles or jars into the bottle banks. So you need to take those out and you add them to your rest meal. Next thing, clothes. There are special containers, just like with the special containers for bottles. There are special containers all around your city where you could dispose your old clothes. You could just have them tied up in a bag and you put them into the containers. Or you could donate these clothes to organizations like, say, Caritas, for example. Or you could take these old clothes, back to some stores where you get a discount on the new clothes that you then buy. For example, H&M does this. I know C&A do this as well. You just need to check the stores in your area to know what they do concerning old clothes. Next thing, electronics. Small electronic items can be disposed in bins that are labeled electro-Geräte. Geräte, I hope that's it right. Yes, that's it. Oh my god, my German. Anyway, now larger appliances can be disposed in recycling centers all around your city. You can find the locations for recycling centers in your city by just simply searching Stadtreinigung plus your city. So for example, if I want to search for anything about waste disposal and things like that for Hamburg, for example, I'll write Stadtreinigung Hamburg and then search, and you will find the site related to that for Hamburg, for example. So you do that for your city as well, and there you can then go through. Of course, this will most likely be in German, and you can translate the site using Google Translate. Then you can find the different locations for the different things. For example, in this case, it's the location for disposing large electronics. Alternatively, you could take these to a retailer. Now, retailers who sell electronic goods as well, by law, they are required to receive these goods from you, for them to be able to dispose them properly. Next, batteries and accumulators. Now, when you go to any collection points for batteries, you find containers where you could put batteries or your accumulators and stuff. Or you could even find them in retail shops, for example, in Netto, in supermarkets and things like that. You can go to the shop. Usually the containers would be at the point where you find containers for putting other waste in the shop. So when you buy stuff from, let's say, Netto or Aldi, for example, when you check out, usually there's a point where you can put in waste. You can put in your cartons. Maybe you don't want to go with the cartons for whatever you bought. You can put it there. You can put plastic bags, somewhere there. And usually there would be a container for batteries, things like that. And you can put your batteries there. Of course, this is for free. They're not going to charge you for coming to drop these batteries there. They are required, just like I said, by law, to collect this and dispose them appropriately. Next is bulky waste, or what we call Sperrmüll. So for example, furniture, things like that, like really huge waste that you want to get rid of. Not like construction waste, like I said, household waste. So these are disposed depending on the city that you're living in. So for example, when we were living in Wuppertal, there are different days in the month when different streets are allowed to bring out their bulky waste, and then the government comes to pick up all the stuff, and go. So usually you bring it out a day before. That usually will give people who want to take some of these things, it can give them time to first take it, and that throughout that day, over the night, and then in the morning the movers will come and they'll clear it off. That is done for free. It's usually done, I think, for every street every 3 months. It will usually get to the town for your street. It doesn't mean that the next month could be another street that's like far away from things like that. So but for every street, at least at the time when we were there, for as long as we were there, rather, every 3 months there was a collection day. The calendar for the year is usually given out to every household at the beginning of the year, and then in that calendar you can see, okay, when is it going to be your turn for your street to bring out their Sperrmüll. But when we moved to Hamburg, we found that the case is different. Here, you don't bring out your waste and keep it outside. Usually, you would call the company, the Sperrmüll company, and then they will come pick it up at a cost. It's not done for free. So different cities, different ways of handling the Sperrmuffe. Now, like I said, you can always check on your city site for Stadtreinigung plus your city, and you can see the instruction on these. And if you don't even know what to do concerning that, you can just simply ask your neighbors or ask someone around, you know, to say, hey, I have some waste, I have lots of stuff I want to get rid of in my apartment, you know, something like that, and you can get help in that area. Now, if the items are still in good condition, you might want to consider putting them up on sites like Kleinanzeigen. So there, if you want to give it out for free, of course you can put it there for free, and people can come to your apartment to pick it up. Or you can put it up for a small fee, you know, that way we're not completely destroying this thing that is probably still very useful, and now you're giving it an opportunity to be useful to somebody else, you know. So not every time, we shouldn't always just think about throwing away stuff. We can think about finding a way to give these items another life. Next, hazardous waste. So paint, you know, cleaning chemicals, you know, chemical products. Maybe you're not even sure what these chemical products are, you know, frying oil, all these things that come under hazardous waste, they are to be disposed in special recycling centers that are usually within your city. In some cities, you have like mobile recycling centers for hazardous waste. As I've said previously, these locations, for these special centers for hazardous waste, for example, they're not usually like so much where you have like bins or containers for bottles and things like that. For example, in Hamburg, I think the hazardous waste centers are about 6 or so of them, and even these centers, they have specific days that you need to bring the stuff there, and specific time for each of these centers. So you see that it's really scheduled. So you have to check within your city to be sure what is applicable for your own city. If it's something that you can just walk in anytime and drop it off, or it's something that you need to look at the schedule for the different centers within your city. But this information are usually on the website, on the Stadtreinigung website, or worst case scenario, you can always ask your neighbor. Usually people would know how to do this. Now, other non-recyclable waste, like say vacuum cleaner bags, you know, like old wallpapers, let's say like nappies, things like that, these go into the black bin. Now it's called the non-recyclable waste bin, and usually it's black. Recycling is a responsibility for everyone. Reduce waste. So we don't always have to lump everything up as waste. Some things can be recycled in terms of reuse. Some things can be upcycled, you know, converted into something else, or you could give them away, donate them. We don't always have to dispose. So reduce waste, sort your waste, and let's be responsible in disposing these waste. Let's do our own part in saving and protecting our environment. I hope you found this helpful, and until next time, do have a fantastic day. Bye.